What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and this video is going to be a little different than my other videos. This is a tech unboxing. I don't usually do much of those, so this video is not necessarily meant for my main watchers. This video is more for random people who are looking for this specific topic. So let's do this. So in this video, I'm going to be not only just unboxing, but also kind of giving my own personal opinions, as well as doing a little bit of testing here and there, and doing some updating of the laptop. I'll leave like different type of links here on the bottom of the screen and in the description below. But before we actually jump in, let me just say I'm not necessarily like a tech reviewer. I'm just kind of making this video because I was looking for this information and I couldn't find anyone really giving it out. There were some other people out there who talked about this laptop, but there's only like one other video out there of this guy actually doing it. And I'll leave links to all the different people that I ran across as I was looking for the videos. And since I couldn't find anybody else doing videos on this laptop, I decided to take the plunge and do the video myself and kind of just go over what type of updates this laptop is going to need as far as some hardware, not as much hardware as you might think, just the RAM. We'll get to that, of course, in the video, and then just some firmware updates and different type of things. And we're going to be comparing just how powerful the laptop is at stock. We're pretty much going to be seeing the difference between what Alienware gives you and then what you actually have to do to make sure it runs at what Alienware should have gave you, if you know what I mean by that. So of course I did a bunch of benchmarks, and I'll be going over more specifically that type of stuff at the end of the video. So I did benchmarks at every single point of you using this laptop. So pretty much I did it at stock, which is as soon as you pull it out of the box. I did it at after all the firmware updates, driver updates, RAM updates. I did benchmarks at overclock, and I'll be going over specifically what I did for my overclock. So as far as the benchmarks go, I have Cinebench single, Cinebench multi-core, I have 3D Mark GPU, 3D Mark CPU, and then I have Gears 5 and Red Dead 2. I tried to do Metro Exodus, but for some reason Exodus is like, their benchmark system is like dumb. It doesn't work right. I don't know why that is. I tried a bunch of different ways to get it to work, and when it didn't crash, it was like completely wrong as far as the frames go. So I just kind of let that go. And you may be thinking, hey, you only did 2 game benchmarks? And I will say, yes, I did. Because they only have 3 games that actually have like that benchmark test. And I know I can do like, the frames separately and, have like a different software, do whatever. I'm not a tech reviewer. I'm just doing the best with what I got. So I guess we'll just jump right into video and we'll start with the unboxing. So let's do it. All right, here we go. Here is the Alienware box. As you can see, it is a nice compact box, pretty legit as far as keeping your nice laptop nice and not broken. So I'd say so far, as far as what it looks like on the outside, looks fine. What it looks like is there might have been some of the guys who are working on it might have actually got some smudges on it. Not a big deal. It's just a box. It's essentially going to go into my basement and sit there until I sell the laptop in a couple years anyways. So with that said, let us just jump into the unboxing. Okay, so the unboxing looks like this. You're gonna make sure you cut your tape that's here. I already did that. And we're gonna open it up and see what we got inside. So I'm pretty sure right here, this empty spot right here is going to be where the laptop is. It makes sense. In fact, there it is. We'll get to that. Let's check out what we have over here. This is, oh, okay. Wow, okay, so that's pretty small. So this is Alienware's own custom mini power supply. They have the other one. Let me go grab that quick to show you guys a comparison. So they have 2 different options on their website. This is the big one that you would usually get, and then there's the mini one for I think it's like 20 bucks extra. And I think for the size, that's actually a pretty decent size. I was looking for a video or for someone kind of comparing these 2 things. I couldn't find one, so I decided to take the plunge, see how it goes. I think it was ultimately a better choice. So they're both supposed to be 240 watts power supplies, and yep, there's 240. And then right there is the 240. So they both have 240 on them. That's good. That means that Dell didn't mix anything up yet. So I guess we'll see how much further we go with this video. But that's pretty much what the mini supply looks like. If you guys are wondering what's the difference between the big one and the mini, I would say for the extra 20 bucks, I think it's 20, 25 bucks, 30 bucks maybe, just go with the mini one. It makes it look so much more nicer. It's more sleek, and it's easier to move stuff around. And for me, I always think that if I can have more portability, that is the better choice in my opinion. Okay, so moving the power supply over to the edge here, let's check out our laptop. Okay, so how did I get this out of here? Okay, I pulled off the sticker. That's okay. So it comes in this nice protected plastic wrapping, which is nice. I always like to have my components nice and pretty. Take that off, throw it to the side, back up to that too. And there is our nice, pretty looking laptop. All right, so you can see we have the 15 here, which I wasn't a massive fan of, but I guess I don't really hate it either. It's pretty decent. Over here we have the Alienware. This is supposed to light up the emblem here. So looking at the back of the ports here, as you can see, we have the heat sinks, 1, 2, and then there is the power supply where that plugs in and gives your laptop power, obviously. There's the HDMI out. So you can actually plug this into an external monitor or your own monitor, and you can get some extra FPS out of this, which is pretty cool. And then right here we have the USB regular, and then here's the USB Type-C. I'm sure you guys, if you're looking at these, you already know what type of USBs these are. They're probably 3.1s, if not 3.1s, they're at least 3.0, so that's good. Then we have another 2 here. And then there is nothing on the front. Oh, and then we have a headphone jack here, and then a LAN connection here. It's kind of a weird spot to put that. I kind of feel like they should have put it in the back. I guess it's not that big of a deal, but there's plenty of room back here. Why didn't you put it back here? There's actually more room for more stuff back here. I don't know. Because if they would have moved that forward, you know, put another USB on the back, maybe even put like an SD card here. I don't know. I think that'd be an interesting idea, but I guess Dell's thinking differently. So on the bottom, you can see all the vents, and of course that's going to help with the cooling. From what I heard, this is actually the intake, so it actually intake from the bottom. So I think what I'm probably going to do when I use my laptops, I'm actually going to elevate the back of this so extra air can kind of get in and then get shot out the vents here, and of course back here. Oh, okay, then we have our speakers right there too, which is pretty cool. So it looks pretty nice. Oh, and there's also some paperwork here, but I don't think anyone cares, so I'm just gonna throw that away. So overall, I'd say this is a pretty decent size when it comes to like the laptop itself. Let me just check my 1S here. You can kind of get like a good size comparison with the 1S. I guess that's a good way to kind of compare it there. I am going to grab my 1X as well. We'll see the different size you can do there. So it's actually, of course, a little flatter than Xbox One X. When it comes to its like girth, it's definitely like about halfway the size. That's pretty nice. Okay, now we're going to compare this to my old Alienware. This is from 2017. It's got a GTX 1070 in it, and of course this one has the RTX 3070, so it is more powerful, good figure. But as you can see, a size difference. They are both Alienware M15s. To tell you the truth, I always kind of thought that my old laptop wasn't going to be as chunky as this new one, but this new one really is nice and sleek. Like, look at that size. That is a much thinner laptop for about twice the amount of power, so pretty crazy. Okay, so we're going to quickly open this up and just kind of see what's going. Oh, it turns on by itself? Look at that keyboard, baby. All right, let me get this set up and we'll be right back. Okay, so it took about half an hour to kind of get all my stuff downloaded and to get this PC looking the way I like it. I like this nice light blue, as you can see from the keyboard. I also changed the WASD just for when you're gaming. Of course, those are the most important keys on the entire keyboard, if you ask me. I changed this so when it's on a battery, it turns orange, but when it's actually plugged in, it turns blue like these colors, which is pretty nice. I'll turn this around quick. And of course, this is the moneymaker shot. The image of the back of this laptop, just to kind of show you guys what it looks like here. As you can see, a nice LED all the way around the rim. I really like that look. I think that looks dope. And of course, there is the blue alien, which I also like as well. So there was something quick I wanted to point out about the keyboard. I have the extra like 130 bucks, and you can get like this mechanical switches on your keyboard. And I'm just gonna say this feels so satisfying. Like, this feels like a gaming keyboard on a laptop, and that's what it's supposed to be. I love it. I'm just gonna be honest, if you're looking for this laptop, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, do this keyboard. It's just so nice. It feels so good when you're playing a game. This feels like an actual keyboard on a desktop that they put into a laptop, and it's just so nice. So honestly, pay the extra 100 some bucks you have to pay to get this thing, because you can not only upgrade the RGB and do whatever you want as far as lights on your entire keyboard, but it just feels, that feels nice. Sounds good. Oh, I like it. So with that said, let's get back to the video. Okay, so I know you guys can't really see the screen with the light in the background behind the camera, but I'm going to tell you this right now. This is a QHD 240 hertz screen, and it is a very nice crispy screen. Like that mouse is just nice, and you can't see it, of course, because of the camera. But I'm telling you, this is a nice screen. This is one of the best screens I've ever seen on a laptop, I think, ever. Now, of course, you're never going to actually hit 240 hertz on your display when it comes to video games, but you can definitely notice it is a lot more crispier when you get to the higher frames for sure. So yeah, it is the best choice as far as monitors go, in my opinion, for this laptop. I think they have 3 different choices. One was 1080p at like 360 hertz, which you're definitely never going to hit ever, unless you're playing, just Counter-Strike, Global Offense. Maybe you can hit that. I don't know. I probably should have did more research, but honestly, it's like 2 a.m. here. I've been working on this all day, so I'm just kind of ready to get it over with. But then again, to be fair, if you guys are interested in this laptop in the first place, chances are you already know all these different specs. You just kind of want to hear my specs. So QHD, 240 hertz, beautiful. Go with it. I'm telling you, you're definitely not going to be angry when you see this nice display. It's just so good looking. Okay, once you have your Alienware M15 R6 out of the box and of course powered on and stuff, what you want to do is the updates for sure. Make sure you have your Windows updated. And that's very easy. You go to the search bar, type updates, it'll show up. You just go ahead and click the button. It'll download all your updates, and of course you might have to restart, but that's okay. You also want to update your Alienware firmware. I'll leave a link to that firmware in the description below to go ahead and jump in right away to that thing. You don't have to worry about it. Just click it, download it. It'll get all your firmware ready to go. It does it by itself, so that's nice. There is a thing with older laptops, with the R5s, with the ones that came out a couple months ago. R6s haven't had the issue, but just in case, it is Dell, they could have messed it up. Where the GPU's CUDA cores aren't being completely maximized out, where like 10% of the CUDA cores aren't being used, that's a different firmware. I'll look for that link and I'll leave it down there as well. So make sure to get that if you need that. You probably don't need it by now. You probably already got that fixed, but if you didn't, that should fix it. And of course, probably the most important update is your drivers update for your GPU inside of your laptop. If you want this thing running at the best capacity you can, that's what you definitely want to do. Just go into your search bar, type in GeForce Experience, and usually if you just type in GEF, it'll show up for you. Click on it. It should be in there automatically, so you should be okay with that. And then you just follow the directions, and it'll download all your stuff. That's good to go. What I usually do after all my downloads are all taken care of and this thing's up to date, I'll actually restart it just to make sure it is nice and refreshed, and then you can get like the best experience out of it. At least for me, that's how I usually do with my tech. I could be wrong. It probably doesn't mean anything, but for me, I think it feels better to do that because you feel refreshed, your computer feels refreshed, everything works better. So, that's just me, of course. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, hey, Nets, what are you talking about? I'm sure that Dell has made sure that this Alienware works perfect out of the box. Well, guess what? We're going to be going over some of those benchmarks later. You're going to see that you're going to want to update this thing the best you can. And not just with the software, but also with the physical hardware of the RAM. In fact, let's go over the RAM thing now. Okay, so I'm currently upgrading the RAM, as you guys can see. And as I suspected, Dell still hasn't fixed the RAM, as you can see. The big issue was you see it says 1RX16. That is a slow RAM, and I actually had bought some, better RAM, the RAM that you want to actually put in there. You want like the X8 RAM, you don't want the X16 RAM. So I'll leave a link to this on the Amazon if you want to go check it out and buy it for yourself. It comes with 16 gigabytes, but I'm upgrading to 32, and that should make things more nice. Another thing I saw recently on, I think it was Dave 2D's video, he was talking about brackets. And then another YouTube, I think it was Jared's Tech. I'll leave them down below. They talked about how Dell told them that they were going to include brackets for the second SSD, but if you can look here, there are no extra brackets. So unless I missed something in the box, and I don't think I did, I don't have an extra bracket if I want to put another SSD there, and I have to find a custom piece for that still. So this was 2 months ago that Dell told him that they were going to be fixing that and putting brackets in, but there aren't brackets in, as you can see. So I'll be upgrading this slower RAM that should have been fixed a long time ago. That was apparently going to be fixed, but it still is not fixed. And I will also probably eventually upgrade the SSD. For now, 1 terabyte is good for my testing, and I checked this one already. That's a good SSD at least. So they're doing something right as far as things go with that. But yeah, I'll be switching out this RAM real quick, and then we will see what happens with the speed with the next test. So when it comes to overclocking your CPU and your GPU, that's like normal when it comes to desktops or when you're gaming and stuff like that. But I would definitely recommend, if you are on a laptop, do not overclock your CPU. I think that is a big mistake because the people who make your computers specifically design the CPU to run at its most optimized as they can. Now, of course, Dell is Dell, but I think for the heat that I was getting, just like what it is, it was good and the performance was good enough, and I didn't want to touch it. So I would recommend not touching CPU. If you feel like you want to, go for it, but I would recommend for this laptop specifically, don't do it. Now when it comes to GPU, that's a different story. Now as you can see here, I actually have my core clock at 125 and I have my memory clock at 400. I actually heard you can push this further. You can actually make your memory clock up to 500 and you can actually make your core clock up to 150, and that is possible. But for me, I'm actually okay with this amount, and the amount of bump I got, I think I'm okay with this. But like I said, feel free to do it more, but I think that's like the safe point. I wouldn't go any further for me. But, you know, we're all different. So another interesting thing that I noticed after I did all my testing was that there is actually an overclock button right here. And if you hold function and you hit this button, so you can hear those fans, it's actually going at like 100% fan speed now. And so what this overclock button does is it doesn't necessarily impact your specs. So like your GPU and your CPU don't get like an overclock boost or anything like that from this button. But what it does is it will actually overclock your fans. So your fans can then reach 100% power and be able to handle the heat that your PC is controlling. So I'm going to turn it off now. And you can listen, the fans are now going to go back off. And I think that's a really good inclusion. I felt like I needed this in my old laptop. Felt like if it was easier to like turn on the fans at high power to kind of cool down my computer, I could do that. So that's a nice little feature I like. Like I said, it's just necessarily a fan boost overclock button in a way. But I really like it. And besides any other extra stuff that's here, there's not really any extra fancy things going on with this computer when it comes to stuff like that. But I think that's really cool. So not only does it keep the computer cool and the components inside, but it also gives you a performance benefit, because if the fans are spinning at their fullest speed, you know, your graphics card, your CPU, actually all of your internals are pretty much going to be able to be cooled better, and so they'll run better. So I think that's a very cool feature that they added into this laptop. Now, as far as the battery life goes for these things, it's Alienware, so of course the battery life isn't going to last as well. But I'm going to show you this real quick. I actually had my computer unplugged for about 20 minutes, and I actually lost 20 minutes of charge, which is interesting because this was at 100% when I first unplugged it, and it legit was just sitting here doing nothing, just with the screen open and not even on the whole time. So battery life probably isn't that great, but it is Alienware, and if you're going to be gaming, you should have it plugged in at all times anyways. So yeah. Okay, so now we come to our benchmarks, and this is one of those things that it shows why it's important to do your updates. So for Cinebench single, this is at stock right out of the box. The single core is 1379 and the multi is 12,339. Now after the updates, it goes single is 1490 and the multi-test is actually 12,674. And that is relatively a big difference when all I did was download firmware. I don't know, it kind of feels like they did it on purpose so then I can go get the firmware myself and then feel better that I made my own computer more powerful. I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. Now with the updated RAM, the Cinebench single actually stayed the exact same, and the Cinebench multi was a little bit better. It was only like 25 points higher at 12,701. So not a massive difference. I guess it does help a little bit multi, but at the end of the day, RAM really isn't much as a CPU thing as it is the GPU part of things, and you'll see that soon. 3D Mark, what I was using to do all these scores was the Time Spy benchmark test that they have, and that is specifically for DirectX 12 computers. So it's a pretty good indication of how powerful your computer can really be. Okay, looking at our 3D Mark GPU, at stock, it was a 9307 score. The update, it's a 9868 score. And then with the updated RAM, it's a 10,328 score. So as you can see, by updating the RAM and even doing the firmware updates, of course, and the driver updates, we had a whole jump of 1,000 points. And that is a really big jump. I mean, even if you don't do the RAM update, you can still get a jump of 500 points in the graphics. So like right there is a good example of why you definitely want to update your computer for sure, because you just get that much more of a jump just by doing the update itself. So definitely do that. And then of course I have the overclock amounts, which I have at 10,633. So I increased my score by 300 on top of that, which is pretty decent as far as this laptop can go for sure. Next one we have 3D Mark CPU, and that one started at 8,025 at stock. And then after the update, it actually jumped up to 9,432. That is 1,400 more points after I did the update. So that's kind of important. And then after the RAM, it brought it up to 10,743. And then after my overclock, it brought it to 10,951. So almost 11,000 CPU score in 3D Mark. Now, like I mentioned before, I wanted to do Metro Exodus as well, but it didn't work. So we're just going to jump right into Gears 5. And Gears 5 at stock, the average FPS was 71. After the update, it jumped all the way to 81. That's 10 frames just for an update. Pretty crazy. After I installed the RAM, it jumped to 85. And then after I overclocked, it jumped to 87. And then after I ran that test, I then turned on Gears DLSS, which is called async. And it made it bump to a 95 on average of FPS, which is massive. If you consider, even if you don't turn that on, and if you do have an RTX, you might as well turn it on. I don't know why you wouldn't. You just get so many more frames out of it, and it looks the exact same, so you might as well do that. But if you consider, just by me doing the updates, the frames start at 71 at stock, which is still pretty decent. But after you do all the extra stuff, you can get to 87. You're essentially gaining 16 frames. I mean, technically speaking, as long as a game is over 60 FPS, it's playable for me. I mean, I guess like 50's fine. 40 though, I really can't play games under 40 FPS anymore. That's just me, of course, but that's how I feel. But I'm at 1440p. That is amazing frames. Like, that is so good. So that just goes to show you just how much extra all this stuff you do to your laptop can really just give it a bump. And then last, but certainly not least, and probably one of the best benchmarks you can use as far as graphics go because of how good looking it looks. Red Dead 2 on all the ultra settings, the highest they can go, 1440p. Stock was 68 average frames, which really isn't bad. That's still very impressive. And after the updates, it only went to 70, which is 2 extra frames, which is interesting considering if you look at Gears 5, we did a whole extra 10 frames by doing the updates. So I guess it just depends on the game itself. 2 frames extra is better than, not having 2 frames extra, so that's a good thing. With the RAM installed, it went up to a 72. With the overclock, it went to a 75. And then with DLSS turned on, it went all the way to 84 frames per second. And like I said, if you've looked at Red Dead Redemption 2 on ultra settings with 1440p, that is a very good amount of frames. 84 frames a second. That's just... it's a joke. It's so good. Oh, and with my older Alienware, I just did those benchmarks for myself, but I'm just going to tell you guys because it's kind of interesting. This is from 2017. The Cinebench Multi for that older Alienware I showed you earlier in the video is 4,200 compared to the 12,339 that the stock laptop had. Now, I didn't do a single core test for the Cinebench because I didn't want it to take as long as it does, because it took a little bit just for my my new Alienware. I didn't want to sit here for 15 minutes waiting for that to go through, so I just didn't do that. Moving over to the 3D Mark GPU test, my old Alienware at what it is right now is 5,800, and like I said, stock, the new Alienware is 9,300, which is a lot more in power. And then of course the 3D Mark CPU test is double at 8,025 for the new one, and then for the old one is 4,200, which is pretty cool. Now, I didn't actually test the old laptop with the games, but you can imagine that as far as things go, The new laptop is essentially double the power and everything else. So if you're going to go off the frames, they're probably like 40 frames per second at a 1440p, I guess you could say, for the older laptop. So there you go, folks. That is my unboxing slash review slash update tutorial slash just me talking about my new laptop to you guys. I hope this helped someone out. I don't know if this is going to necessarily sell this laptop because of what I mentioned about how Dell cut corners, but Dell always cuts corners. But even though that is the way it is, it doesn't mean that we can't take the laptop and try our best to make it even better. And I think for what we got, it's actually pretty impressive. So if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more like this, let me know in the comments below. I might do more tech reviews. I have a lot of other stuff I can do reviews on and stuff. I actually have like a whole shelf of consoles back here I've been collecting, so maybe I'll do like a console video or something like that. So let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see some more type of stuff like this. Thanks again for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this stuff. If you don't, that's okay. But I think it was fun. I had a good time. But thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you later. Peace.